The evening was quiet, too quiet. I sat in my car outside her house, gripping the steering wheel, trying to calm the storm in my chest. She had told me she was going out with her friends tonight, a simple dinner, nothing unusual. But something in her voice earlier felt off. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was overthinking, but my gut wouldn't let it go. For the first time in months, I decided to follow her. Not because I wanted to catch her doing something wrong, but because I needed to prove to myself that she was the woman I believed she was. I trailed her car at a safe distance, my headlights dim, heart pounding harder with every turn she made. She didn't head toward the restaurant she'd mentioned. Instead, she drove across town, into a quieter neighborhood, where the streets grew darker and fewer people walked the sidewalks. Finally, she pulled up in front of a house I didn't recognize. The porch light flicked on, and the door opened. A man stepped outside. He wasn't a stranger. I knew that face instantly. It was Ryan. My co-worker. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. Ryan, the guy who always asked too many questions about her, who joked about stealing her from me during office parties. I'd always brushed it off as harmless banter. But now, watching her smile as she walked into his arms, I felt my stomach twist. She didn't even hesitate. She hugged him like she belonged there. Like I never existed. I gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles went white. My chest felt like it was caving in, the air too heavy to breathe. Every instinct screamed at me to storm out of the car, to demand answers right there on that porch. But I didn't. I stayed frozen, watching the woman I thought I knew disappear into another man's house. And in that moment, I realized, something inside me had already broken. I kept telling myself to let it go, but my mind wouldn't stop racing. That kiss wasn't just some random accident. I knew what I saw, and the way they both froze, guilty and silent, confirmed it. The next day, I decided to test her. I acted normal, maybe even a little more affectionate than usual. I wanted to see how she'd react. She smiled, laughed, and kissed me back as if nothing had happened. But her eyes couldn't hide the truth. Later that evening, I checked her phone. She'd never let me touch it before, always claiming it was private. But she'd left it on the kitchen counter while showering, and my gut told me I had to look. My hands were shaking as I opened her messages. And there it was. Dozens of texts between her and him. Flirty jokes. Late night I miss you messages. Pictures. It felt like someone stabbed me straight through the chest. I wanted to scream, but instead I just sat there, phone in my hand, my heart pounding so loudly I could barely hear the water running in the bathroom. When she came out, wrapped in her towel, smiling at me like nothing was wrong, I almost lost it. But I didn't. Not yet. I needed to know how deep this went. So I played along. For days, I pretended I knew nothing, while inside I was burning alive. Every time she touched me, I wondered if she touched him the same way. Every I love you felt like poison in my ears. One night, she said she was going out with friends. My gut screamed at me again, so I followed her. I stayed far enough behind so she wouldn't notice. She walked into a quiet bar on the edge of town, and there he was waiting for her. The way she lit up when she saw him was different. Different from the way she looked at me. It was raw, unfiltered, like she didn't have to pretend. I stood outside, frozen, watching her kiss him like she had never kissed me before. That was the moment something inside me broke. I wanted to storm in, scream, make a scene. But instead, I quietly left. I didn't want her excuses, her lies. I wanted her to dig her own grave, and I was going to give her the shovel. So I started planning. The next morning, I acted as if everything was normal. She made breakfast, smiled, and kissed my cheek like always. But in my mind, I had already crossed a line, there was no going back. I started documenting everything. Screenshots of her messages, photos of her meetings with him, even voice recordings of late-night calls I overheard when she thought I was asleep. I built a folder, a secret file of proof, every piece sharpening the knife I was preparing for her betrayal. One evening, I casually asked her about her day. She said she'd been with a friend, helping with some work. Her voice was steady, her lie practiced. I just nodded, pretending to believe her, while the image of her kissing him in that bar replayed in my head. At night, while she slept, I stared at the ceiling, thinking about us. About the years we spent together, the memories, the promises. And I realized none of it meant anything to her. She had already chosen someone else, even if she hadn't admitted it to me yet. So I decided to wait for the right moment. Not to expose her immediately, but to make sure she felt what I felt. I wanted her to experience the same helplessness, the same burning shame. A week later, she said she was going out again. Same excuse. Same fake smile. I kissed her goodbye and wished her fun. Then I called a close friend of mine, someone she respected. Someone who would never doubt me. I told him to meet me near the bar, to see for himself. When we arrived, there she was again, sitting across from him, laughing, holding his hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. My friend's face went pale. He didn't need explanations. The truth was right in front of him. That was step one. I wasn't going to confront her alone. No, I wanted the world she built on lies to collapse around her, piece by piece. And I was just getting started. The following evening, I acted differently. I came home earlier than usual, flowers in my hand, pretending to be the loving, clueless boyfriend. She looked surprised but quickly covered it with a smile, hugging me tightly. I could feel the guilt in the way she held me, too long, too forced. That night, while she was in the shower, I unlocked her phone. I already knew the password. There it was, dozens of messages. I miss you. Last night was amazing. When can I see you again? My chest tightened, but instead of anger, I felt a cold calmness. The kind that comes before a storm. I copied everything, every single word, and sent it to my email. My evidence was complete. The next day, I invited her parents and a few close friends over for dinner. She had no idea what was coming. She dressed up, cooked, laughed. It was almost painful to watch how easily she could play her role. When everyone was seated, I stood up, raised my glass, and said, "Tonight, I want to celebrate honesty and love. But most of all, I want to reveal a truth that has been hidden from us all." Her smile froze. She looked at me, confused, nervous. And then I connected my phone to the TV. The messages appeared on the big screen, one after another, her words with him filling the room like poison. Silence. Complete silence. Her parents' faces turned pale, my friends looked away in disbelief, and she couldn't even breathe. That was the moment her world shattered. And I wasn't done yet. She stuttered, I can explain, but no one wanted to hear it. Her father stood up, furious, while her mother just cried silently. My friends shook their heads, whispering among themselves. The room felt heavy, suffocating. I stayed calm. "No," I said, my voice steady. "You don't get to explain. You made your choice. And tonight, everyone sees who you really are." She fell to her knees, begging me not to leave, clutching at my hands. But I pulled away. I looked at her one last time, and all I saw was a stranger. I packed my things that very night. No shouting, no fighting, no second chances. Just silence and the sound of the door closing behind me. And the truth? That silence felt better than any words she could have ever said.